We're ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good evening. We are recording our July 10th business meeting, and thank you all for joining our special presentation, Disinformation in the Hispanic Community. Hold on, somebody else is coming in. Sorry. This evening's presentation is brought to you in partnership with Fact Check Cuidado and will be presented by award-winning journalist Rafael Olavarria. And a little bit about Fact Check. This was an initiative created to counter mis and disinformation within the Hispanic and Latino communities in the United States. Fact Check has proven to be innovative in approaching their audiences, creating proactive communities, fostering collaboration, and developing civic technology. They serve 60 million Hispanics and Latinos living in the U.S., which by 2030 will represent more than 20% of the country's population. Relative to Broward County, the 2022 census data has reported a total estimated population of 1.940 million, of which Hispanics represent 31.5%, or 610,000 people. And since 2015, Broward County's most significant population increases were in fact among Hispanic or Latinos, 15.6%, or 77,298 persons. And this is why a focus on Hispanics is critical in Broward County. A little bit about Rafael. He began his career at CNN in Espanol as a writer, associate producer, and breaking news anchor, among other roles. He then worked as a multimedia journalist at Univision Atlanta, where he led the fight against misinformation during the pandemic and the 2020 presidential election. And between 2021 and 2022, Rafael won 11 Southwest Emmy Awards. That's amazing. Rafael graduated with a degree in international studies from the Central University of Venezuela in Caracas. And on a fun note, he's also a guitarist, singer, and songwriter. And although he has moved away from the stage, he apparently never misses an opportunity to participate in karaoke. Rafael, this is a proud moment for me. Welcome, and I'm tossing over to you.
Thank you, Allison. And I gotta fact check all that is true. I I do love karaoke. So, whenever I'm in Broward County or any other place in South Florida, please let me know any good karaoke place and I'll be there. And and thank you so much for having me and taking the time. One thing that we always talk about when we're speaking with non Hispanic or non-Spanish speaking audiences is, we're always excited and grateful because it's very important for non-Latinos to understand what's going on with the Hispanic communities and how at times they're being targeted by disinformation. So this is a great opportunity. So I'm very excited to be here. So yeah, if you roll your R's, you can say Rafael Olavarria, but that's okay. I'm perfectly fine with Rafael. And if you see me turning my head this way, it's because I have two screens and I have the presentation in front of me and I have you guys here. So if I turn my head, it's because I'm looking at you. So Alison already talked about this. Yes, all of that was true. And the thing that stands out the most is because I as you can see, I didn't study journalism back in Venezuela. It wasn't my plan to become a journalist. I was a human rights activist there, which is not the best line of work. If you want to do something under a dictatorship, I would not recommend human rights. So that's why I had to flee and then start again here in the United States. And journalism was where the area where I got my first job opportunities. And 10 years later, I'm here, and things have worked out pretty well. I'm grateful. And Factical, Allison touched on this as well. Yes, we are an initiative trying to build a community of Latinos against this disinformation, and building a community means, partnering with big media outlets and small community outlets as well, with institutional partners such as yourselves. We are present in 23 states plus Puerto Rico. We want to keep growing. So every time there's new opportunities to add new partners, we always say yes, because our partnership, it's a free partnership in which since there's so much disinformation out there, the idea is that we don't have enough eyes for everything that's going around. So our partners help us if they see something in their communities that it looks dangerous, or it looks suspicious, they can send it to us, and then we can work on it. So we help each other, and at the end, and we train our partners. We work with them. So at the end of the day, we try to build a huge and robust network of organizations in this fight against this and misinformation. And it was a joint effort by Chequeado, which is the biggest fact-checking organization in Argentina, and Maldita, the biggest fact-checking organization in Spain. The creators of those two organizations joined forces and created Fact Chequeado in 2022, and I joined in 2023. So one thing that we do to create community is we listen to our audience, and that means our chatbot is one of the ways we listen to them. People can reach out to us through our chatbot, and our bot can, if we already work on that story, the bot automatically sends them the right information, whether it's true or false. So people can use WhatsApp to connect with us, and if you probably guys already know, but for Latinos, WhatsApp is the main way in which we connect with each other, whether here in the United States or if we're from another country, with our family members abroad. So that's what we are with our audience is, which is WhatsApp. And we listen to our audience also through our WhatsApp channel, which is a way where we broadcast things that we've published, games, videos. So we have thousands of people there, and we send them information every day. So now, and disinformation, I think it's a concept that when we work with disinformation, we believe everyone knows what the difference between mis and disinformation is. But at times we've encountered people, who have the question like, okay, so what's the actual difference between mis and disinformation? Do you guys know?
Tell us.
Okay. So the idea is that first, we try to avoid the term fake news, and because it's being co-opted by politicians who want to say that anything that's negative about them online is fake news. So mis and disinformation, they're both false information, but the difference is the intent. Misinformation can be something, let's say, a family member sends us something about a pill or a tea or something that can cure a disease, and probably that's, after you search online, you realize that it's not true, but that family member didn't send that to you to manipulate you, to deceive you. There's not like a really evil plan behind all that. When it comes to disinformation, it's false information with the purpose of fooling someone else. So the difference is the purpose, and but we work with both, of course, but we try to avoid the term fake news. When we look at how this information is amplified, it has usually behaves this way. It can start in an anonymous website. It can then jump to closed networks. We can imagine like blogs like 8chan or 4chan, or let's say Telegram. where people share disinformation with each other. It can jump to conspiracy communities, probably closed Facebook groups in which people share that type of disinformation as well. But then from that specific space, it can jump to a broader audience. In social media, it can go viral, and at times it gets shared even wider when professional media or news networks take the bait. It has happened at times where a viral video is out there and a news outlet doesn't take the effort of verify if it's true or not, and then it can be aired or published in a real news website, but then realize that they're publishing disinformation. So it can jump and then start from something very small, go viral, and affect millions of people. And there are several types of mis and disinformation, satire or parody. If it's not, if the person doesn't say out loud that it's a satire or parody, if enough people believe that it's true, a joke can turn into mis or disinformation. There's misleading content, imposter content, fabricated content, which is news that are completely 100% false, false connection, which is, sometimes when you see a headline, very dramatic or yeah, like chaotic headline, and then when you read the story and you realize, the story, I mean, the headline is not very well supported by the rest of the story. It can be false context. There are examples in general. It happens when someone uses a piece of something true and then shares it without acknowledging the rest of the context. For example, we add context whenever let's say Trump or Biden talk about the economy. And at times, let's say Biden talks about the economy, about job creation. The numbers are correct, but in the speech, he failed to mention, how many jobs were lost during the pandemic. So we always add context to it, like, yes, during this presidency, this amount of jobs were created, but you need to take into consideration what happened during the pandemic. So it's something that's not 100% false, but there needs to be context there, so people won't be misled. And also manipulated content, that's edited images, photoshopped images or videos in which they cut a specific moment of the video. I have a recent example that went viral. It was a video showing Joe Biden finding what the disinformers claimed was a imaginative chair that was behind them, and they said that there was no chair. He was trying to sit in something that wasn't there. But so he made the gesture like he was going to sit, and they cut the video there. But if you were to see the full clip, you would see there was a chair behind Biden. So they wouldn't, the video itself wasn't fake. They just cut it in that specific moment to make you think something that is not based in reality. So we have that, and you can add AI, which is our new threat to all of those that I'm telling you. Sometimes we ask ourselves, like, what's going on, why they do what they do. So we found three main motives behind why bad actors try to disinform. One can be merely ideological or political. I mean, there's something to be gained by it, so that's an option. Also, it can be for profit, especially with scammers. They use false information to trap people. You guys have no idea how many times we've gotten people telling us if it's true that they're getting that someone, an old lady from Europe, contacted them, letting them know that she will make them a donation of thousands of euros. So they set up an email that looks like it's real. They send it to them, and people actually sort of believe it and fall into that. So profit is another motivation behind the disinformation, and another one can be just ignorance, of course. When we look at 2024, which I know is something that you guys are very interested in, and we as well, we know from the experience from our co-founders in Argentina, Maldita in Spain, and what we've seen in the US, that we have to get ready for 10 cases of 10 types of electoral disinformation. Many of them you're familiar with because of 2020. There was a problem in one county with a specific machine, and that problem is labeled, oh, so there's fraud going on right now. The authorities are behind it. There's dead people voting, which is something that's very common as well. Non-citizens are voting, which is something that's very common, and we're seeing it now, and it has happened before. They don't ask anyone for the documentation to vote. That means everyone can vote and sway the election one way or the other. On the election day, there's chaos, there's fraud. They can share at times polls. That doesn't happen too much here in the United States, but we see it in other countries, like polls from organizations that do not exist, but they get published false polls to show a preference that's probably not real. And of course, false statement from candidates, which is something that we work a lot in. So those are the things that we have in our mind when we think about 2024. What we're doing to get ready for it is we have a strategy called pre-bunking. So debunking is, we see a piece of this information out there, and then we see it, we analyze it, and then afterwards we go ahead and publish a story, a video, letting people know that that information was false. With pre-bunking, what we do is we kind of have an idea of what will happen, because we already kind of know what bad actors will say. So we start educating and empowering people now. So when they encounter that piece of misinformation, they already have an idea. So it's like, let's say a vaccine, right? So they have the antibodies. So when they encounter that, they won't be fooled as easy. So what we're doing is electoral explainers in both languages, letting people how the electoral process in the US works, especially because the electoral process here is very complicated. So we do our best to let them know how it works and how there are guardrails and safeguards. So a big fraud, it's very, very, very complicated to actually commit, and we make videos, and we're doing everything now to do our best. So people, as the closer we get to the election and people will see more and more of that disinformation, probably they will have those antibodies. So diving into the Latino communities and our relation with disinformation. First, I'm sure you guys know, but we always love to reiterate that there's a difference between being Hispanic and being Latino. In my case, I'm both, because Spanish is my first language, and I'm Latino because I'm from Venezuela. But there are Brazilians, they are Latino but not Hispanic. Spaniards, they are Hispanic but they're not Latinos. Haitians, they're Latino but not Hispanic. So and we're very diverse in how we think, our experiences. We're from all races or ideologies, so we're very diverse. I may have more things in common probably with it has happened to me. I have more things in common at times with someone who is not Latino compared with someone who is Latino, and have no many things in common with that person. So it's a whole broad thing. So but there are information gaps that affects Latinos. About 64 million Latinos here, closer to 20% of the population. we are more likely to use social media as a primary source of information. And a 2023 study showed that there are a lot of Latinas and Latinos who are not comfortable speaking in English. They have few information sources. I mean, the biggest networks are here, Telemundo and Univision, but they're not news-based all the time. The news is just one small segment of it. There's distrust towards the authorities and media outlets in English. And in that study, we saw that there was a range between 18 and 34% of the people who participated in the study who were shown a piece of disinformation and they thought it was real. But there's good news there. The way the study worked, they showed them the video, the video which had the disinformation or the content, and the people who believed it was real, then they were shown one of our videos debunking that claim. And the results show that, let's say, the needle moved. So people who thought it was real, they were open to, okay, maybe it wasn't. So it depends how you tell the story, but the verification videos work, and fact checking and debunking works. So it's not like it's all lost and there's nothing we can do because it actually works. There's a new research that shows that Latinos in the US who use social media in Spanish are more likely to believe disinformation when they come across it. And that study confirms what we've experienced, which is that first, Latinos in the US, we use WhatsApp not only to connect with each other, but also we get our news there and we discuss politics there. So it's a very important part of our lives. And WhatsApp is a challenge as well because it's not a social media like Twitter, like Facebook. It's a closed messaging app. So it's not something we can monitor unless people alert us and let us know what they're seeing in their family groups, in their friends group, in their colleagues from work group. 74% of Latinos prefer to consume their news in Spanish. And this is something also important, that disinformation on social media in Spanish is monitored much less than in English. So the same piece of misinformation or disinformation that you would see in English, let's say in your Facebook page, would probably stay longer. I mean, let's say there's two, one in English and one that was translated in Spanish. Their chances are the one in English will be labeled as disinformation faster than the one in Spanish, who will probably stay there for weeks without any sort of label nor content moderation. So that makes Latinos who only speak Spanish more susceptible to political disinformation. And I'm at I think I didn't. It wasn't the first slide, but I didn't mention it. I'm a disinformation fellow at the Digital Democracy Institute of the Americas, and they do a lot of study about disinformation and Latinos. So, like 2 weeks ago, they published these results, and I thought this is great because now I can use those stats tonight. So one thing that that's very important there, that Latinos, they surveyed about 3,000 Latinos from all over the US. In this case was Latinos who speak English or Spanish. So they're mostly uncertain when it comes to misinformation. Like the majority of them probably do not believe right away that something is false or true. They're not sure. But that's good news because usually the people who aren't sure are the people that you can sway and will be open to get the right information. There are narratives that takes hold in the Latino community. Two of them is traditional values are being eroded by a leftist political agenda that's been implemented in school. 50% of those in the study said they have seen it, and 42% accept it. Another one, elites are plotting with mainstream media outlets and social media companies to censor the truth. 54% have seen the narrative, And among those, 47% accepted. The study showed that there's pieces of misinformation, specific videos, but there's also narratives, right? Like if you connect the dots, the big narrative is, let's say you can say there's a group of 10 videos or images showing false images or AI created images of, let's say, people crossing the southern border. But those are videos, small videos specifically, but the big narrative can be there's an invasion in the United States. So that's why we also take a look not only at specific videos, but also big narratives in which those videos exist. Another thing was the Latinos most likely to see mis and disinformation were those with high level of interest in politics. And Latinos who identify as having Republican partisanship, high levels of partisan intensity, and who consume Spanish language media were less able to accurately detect and differentiate between true and false content. And here you can see the polarization in which we're in that also affects Latinos. You can see the partisan gap here among Latino Democrats. They asked him who you trust the most, who you trust the less, and they gave them a lot of options. So they trusted scientists, journalists, fact checkers, Biden, and other Democrats. The least trusted, not a surprise, Fox News, social media, Supreme Court, and Republicans. Among Republicans, the most trusted were scientists, Supreme Court, religious leader, and other Republicans. The least trusted were CNN, MSNBC, the media organizations, journalists, activists, and Biden. So two things here. They both said they trust scientists. That's a good thing. And but another group that emerged, and probably that can be helpful for you guys, they say they trust their neighbors. So they don't see their neighbors necessarily as a partisan hack who's trying to manipulate me. So they have trust in their neighbors. So that can be relevant and important because neighbors can be an important messenger. And in general, because that's how we are. One great thing about Latinos and another thing that's challenging is that we stick together in big groups of family wherever we're going. Sometimes that's great, but sometimes we are exposed to that uncle and who's always sharing mis and disinformation. So, but we are a very interconnected community all the time. So what we've seen so far, when you think about more like specific examples, when we head to the 2024 elections, I'm going to show you one example. This happened here in Georgia. This wasn't something we saw online. This was a flyer that was sent to regular old-fashioned mail in Latino areas here in Georgia. And it said in Spanish, Joe Biden and sus aliados progresivos en Washington quieren que los hombres utilicen el baño de las niñas. So Joe Biden and their partner, the progressive partners or allies, they want men to use the girls' bathroom in K-12. We knew that happened because someone from the community took a picture of it and sent it to us and told, hey, this is happening. So, but we can see here there was an effort into, in this case was America First Legal Foundation, which was created by, I think, Stephen Miller, who was an advisor to Trump during the Trump administration. So they took the time to translate in Spanish and send it to Latino areas. So it was very targeted. So we're getting ready to see not only the things that may pop up in English, but also things like this, like physical things being sent out to Latino communities. Another thing that we're seeing, we uncovered a couple months ago, content farms in TikTok. We started seeing video after video with a few hours between each other of being published, telling migrants that the US border was open and now anyone can come in and nothing bad will happen to you. The government has officially opened the border and now everyone can come. And we saw tens of these videos, very similar to each other, some of them with AI anchors on top of it, some of them with AI voices. So it changed, but they were all basically telling the same thing in a span of 2 days, tens of videos. So we sat down with experts and they explained to us how it looked like it was a content farm pushing a specific narrative. And some of these videos had millions and millions of views. So one thing we're ready for and is the fact that these accounts can coordinate with each other. And as we get closer to the election, they can push a specific narrative. And TikTok doesn't have as of now, as far as I know, a team of people who speak Spanish taking a look at what's happening. We were the ones who alerted TikTok about this, because otherwise that content would have probably still be out there going viral. We know about AI, the dangers that we may see with AI. You probably see these pictures and you can tell that they're fake. But AI is getting better. I mean, you can see that they're still making weird things like that weird hand that we don't know what that is. So we've seen weird hands. We've seen a piece of chicken just flying when they show a fake AI photo of Trump in a barbecue. So it's been all over the place. But AI, even though it's getting better, we are not powerless. We have tools that help us detect AI. So at least, as you can see, for example, Hive or Sensity, there are tools in which you can just upload a picture and the tool will help you percentage-wise how likely it is that this picture was created by artificial intelligence. But it's out there and it's being used already in a political campaign. I'll show you really quick. I hope these videos play.
Fired. You're fired. You're all fired. All four are fired.
Should you fire Fauci? So a lot of people ask me that.
So you will see. Okay, right there. So that part right there, there's a combination there of pictures that were real with AI pictures. And the video did not disclose which is real and which isn't real. So it was up to us to analyze each one and let people know, hey, this is true, this is not. As you probably can see, the ones with Trump hugging and kissing Fauci are not true. They're AI generated. You can see the hair that looks different. It looks, the skin looks like taken out of a video game or a computer. But the DeSantis campaign at the time didn't disclose that some of those pictures were AI generated. I'm gonna show you now a video which they disclosed that it was AI generated, but it also shows the range or the impact that AI can have in a campaign. Let me pause this. Stop this.
Financial markets are in free fall as 500 regional banks have shuttered their doors. Border agents were overrun by a surge of 80,000 illegals yesterday evening.
So in general,
Joe Biden. This morning, and in full China invades Taiwan.
those things, explosions, and some of the things that they showed in the video were AI created, but they disclosed that it was. But it shows that AI can be used in politics. We saw during the primaries that there was an AI robot calling people using Biden's voice in I don't remember the state, but telling them that you don't have to vote, that this is Joe Biden. So it can be by a video, it can be a picture, it can be a phone call. So it's very important that we're aware that these things can happen. So now I'm going to jump an example from Florida. I added an alligator just because Florida, I know. And I said the Sunshine State of Disinformation, not because I want to throw shade to Florida, just because I wanted to put something that looked kind of funny. But so the difference, we believe that Florida it's when it comes to disinformation, it's its own thing. Because one thing that Florida has and that other states do not, for example, is that there's a lot of radio stations that Latinos listen to get their news or opinion. So we're in our countries, we're very used to just being in the car and listening to FM or AM radio. And that's something that happens with Latinos in Florida. They love to get their news and their opinions in the radio. So AM, FM radio is a place where it's very hard for us to monitor, but where we've seen and detect a lot of disinformation. For example, the picture you see on your left, that was disinformation related to the pro right to an abortion amendment that that will be in the Florida ballot in the next election. So this lady was saying that it legalizes the abortion no matter what until the 9th month. You can basically kill the baby whenever you want, etc., etc. But it was aired on this 990 AM radio, which is a AM Christian radio station. So it aired there. On the right side, that was another AM radio station, which was also broadcast on Facebook. And then they were telling people that Trump was accused in Georgia just to tell people to watch TV, related to the January 6th case here in Georgia. So it was disinformation related to the charges against Trump, but it was all aired in radio stations. Two more examples on your left. There was conversation after the midterms about 30,000 ghost votes, like people who voted that were dead. On your right side, that was a piece of disinformation related to Arizona, that they are giving people who are in citizenship, giving out IDs so they can just go and vote and sway the election in favor of Joe Biden. Even though they talked about Arizona, the Radio Libre 790 that you can see in your screen, that's an AM radio in Florida. So we're always monitoring what's going on in the Miami area, in the South Florida area, because a lot of radio stations there or other live streamers, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, there's a lot of disinformation that comes from Florida. But when we see Florida, we have to talk about, okay, what drives Latinos in Florida to at times spread the political disinformation, and we talk about our biases. Do you guys know who have an idea of some of the biases that Latinos have in Florida, I'll share what I know from my experience as a Venezuelan with Cuban friends and Colombian friends. There's a fear because generated by the country which we're from. So if we have been traumatized or scarred by a left-wing dictatorship, and then someone comes and tell us, hey, if this guy wins, whatever you left behind, it's gonna come back to you again. That scares us, of course. So that's why we see so much content related to government control. Communism is here. They're coming after you. The IRS is gonna knock on your door. They're giving out people IDs to vote, because that has happened in Venezuela, where we of course do not have any sort of free elections. So it's something familiar to us that has scarred us, and then when we think or feel that that may happen here, so we kind of freak out. So that happens a lot, and I have Venezuelan friends who do not like what I do because they think I'm okay. Back in Venezuela, when I was a human rights activist, I was called a CIA puppet and a Yankee. And here I've been called a communist. I'm not sure exactly what I am now. I have an identity crisis. But the thing is, that's how, it's all about the perception, the feeling, things that have hurt us in the past, and we're just afraid that it may come to us here. So we have another concept that opens up the door to this concept that is very important for all of us. Even for me, I work in this and have to check my bias all the time. Is the people's tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with their existing beliefs. So if I have a politician that I don't like, if I see a video of that politician that makes him look bad, I probably would believe it right away because I hate that guy. But in that case, I have to check my biases. Like, okay, let me take a second. Let me see if it's true or not. And we all have biases, and we have to be aware of it. And when we're navigating in social media, we have to be super aware of it, especially before sharing a content. And we also have to check our feelings. That sounds very romantic, but the thing is, disinformation is created to play with our feelings. So every time we see something online that enrages us, there's a chance that it was created in that way to make us feel that way, so we can share it, so it can go viral. So feelings, it's all about feelings. It's all about playing with our fears, with our hopes, with our passions. So every time we're scrolling and we see something that enrages us, it's better to take a deep breath, maybe check it in a news website, a reputable news organization, to see what's true, what's not, before sharing anything. So before I finish, you probably would like to know how to talk to someone who shares disinformation or believes in disinformation. First, we got to verify the content before we engage with that person. We got to make sure that it's not true. Then it comes the question, if I see it online, should I comment or not comment? In general, the advice is we shouldn't comment, at least publicly, because nobody likes to be told or being humiliated online, like, what you are wrong. I mean, if you want to fight, you want to fight. But if you want to convince someone, that's not the right path. We also have to try to understand the perspective of the person who shared this story. If it's someone, like, say, if I have a friend who's Cuban or another Venezuelan who shared a false story saying Biden means communism is here in the United States, or we are already living in communism, I take a deep breath, because I understand that other person fear, even what the person is sharing is not true. We gotta avoid escalation with that person. If the conversation isn't going well, we're not gonna convince someone else by yelling at them, by fighting with them. The most important thing is we have to come from a place of empathy, understand why they believe what they believe, and find the more peaceful way to kind of show them that there's other information out there that you may want to check out, because it sounds like what you're sharing is not necessarily true. I don't know, read this, take a look at this, without making someone else feel bad or stupid. And also you can be a resource for others, sharing right information, sharing tools, sharing tips. And that is, for example, we have a toolbox. I'm just going to go over it here quickly with pictures, tools that we use to check pictures, tools that we use to verify videos, tools that we use to verify audio, tools that we use to verify if a picture said it was taken in this specific area, what tools, what softwares can we use to verify that it was indeed taken in this specific street at the time that they say it was taken. So we have a toolbox in Spanish, and we have it as well in English in factcheckout.com. The idea is for anyone who's interested or curious about how to use it. We have instructions there on how to use these tools, because they're not only for journalists. I mean, anyone in general can use these tools, like Google reverse images and things like that. That are very democratic, open to anyone. Having said all this, and I know we have until 8, and I'm so sorry for speaking this much. I'm open for questions, and if I have the answer to those questions, I'll be happy to give them to you.
Rafael, you are a rock star. This was a wonderful presentation. You filled in, you connected a lot of dots for me, and I'm a newsie. I will say this just as a comment, that fake news, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in social media. And for those of you that haven't worked for a news organization, know that if it's not published by a credible news organization, one that you use day in and day out, newspaper, something that's, just sounds like you'll know what it is because you've never heard it before. Those are organizations, I don't know if they are considered a content form or not, but those are the organizations that pretend to put news out there that's not really news. And so I would trust you, as Rafael had said, you have your belief system, and use the news organizations that you refer to day in and day out for your news. Associated Press is also nonpartisan, right down the middle. Let me ask you this, Rafael. So relative to Hispanics' viewing habits in general, doesn't have to be to South Florida, because it probably does translate. I mean, what publications do they read to get their news? It doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. It's just what do you think?
The latest study that I've seen, and hopefully I can send it to you after a conversation, is that they get a lot of information from social media. They use a lot of Facebook. They use a lot of TikTok. One thing that they use a lot, and is a place where we are as Factchequeado, we're not as present yet as we should be, is YouTube. They find YouTube broadcasters who talk about politics, and they get their information from there. In this case, Latinos who either speak English or Spanish. When we talk about Latinos who consume most of their news in Spanish, they tend to go more to Univision, Telemundo, and social media. But yeah, it's not like they just, there's not just one place So it can be WhatsApp because of their friends are sending it to them, or they can go and search for YouTube. So they're all over the place, or there are a lot of TikTok users who talk about news, kind of real, kind of not. But yeah, social media is such an important place for Latinos to get their news. It's one of the biggest one, more than white Americans, according to the latest study that we've seen.
Interesting. Okay, who's got questions? I cannot believe, oh, what did I see? I saw somebody raise their hand. Oh, Pam. Pam, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm trying to hit my thing here. Thank you so much, Rafael. This was really wonderful and real. I've been dealing with this. I got hold of the league's English version of how to separate fact from fiction, and I'm looking, I said, this cannot be presented to a Latin audience. It has no relevance at all. They don't get it. And so I've been in contact with All Voting is Local and Florida Rights and no, Florida Watch, I think it is. And we are looking at putting together a presentation in Spanish. I'm supposed to give one in like September or October, and I don't have anything to give yet. I love some of your graphics and things. Do we have an email where we can contact you? Because I need your help really for something like this. It would be wonderful.
Let me go to the chat. Thank you so much. And let me go to the chat right away.
Fantastic.
So I can okay, it's right there. Oh, and thank you, Anna. And yeah, as I said at the beginning, and Allison knows about this. We're always looking to, with grassroots organizations such as yourself, we're always looking to partner up and work closely. So if you, Pam, there's a grassroots organization that's nonpartisan, and you think it would benefit from what we do, we can always put you in contact with Paula, or partnerships person. So how we can explore what else can we do to be useful to whatever you guys are doing related to disinformation.
They told me that they have, we were talking about, the AM radio and Radio Mambi and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But they actually have people listening to AM radio from like 6 in the morning until 8 at night or something like that. And if somebody's shaking their head yes or nodding yes, and that if they can manage, they'll call in, and say, hey, you're wrong or whatever, and try and do this. But they've got people listening to that stuff all day long. So
Well, Pam, so that's even better, because we don't have the bandwidth, like the resources to do that, to listen to it. So, they can be a resource, like they just heard something that's disinformation, and they can send us an email like, hey, they're talking about this, and then we can probably just
I'll put you in contact with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else?
Oh,
I just wanted to say thank you for this really interesting presentation. You mentioned biases, and I'm curious, I sort of want to pick your brain. One of the biases that I encounter so much is the concept. I don't know if you've dealt with this before, but it's like the concept or the idea that voting for a particular political party is somehow more American than the other. I think that was like a narrative that I was taught. It's like, oh, voting for the political right is like, that's you being an American. And that's one that I think still perpetuates in my community. I hear that a lot. And yeah, I don't know if you've encountered that and how you tackle that one specifically.
Well, we are actually, it sounded like something we're working on right now with the DDIA people, the one that I showed you with the stats and the studies. They're trying to we don't have the results yet, but they're trying to do a lot of media literacy around arguments such as false dichotomies, or
Mm.
or ad hominem attacks, and one of them is like what you mentioned. If you don't vote specifically for this candidate, it means that you hate
Mhm.
your country,
Right.
like right away. So that's a technique that people who spread disinformation use. So what they are testing now is we created videos trying to let people know. For example, we use a crazy example, like whether you eat your if you eat your favorite dish tonight, it means that you want all pandas to die. Like,
Right. Right. Just like no logical. Yeah. Yeah.
why are you making this connection? The one thing means what? So we use that, we're using that in a way to test if it works, so people can detect, hey, I'm being manipulated, but this false choice that if I do this a certain way, then I'm this, which is
Mhm.
not true. So yeah, so we encounter a lot of that, and hopefully we'll see the results of those videos, and if they work, because we did it both in English and Spanish, and if they work, I'll make sure I send it to you guys, because it can probably work to spread it to other people, so they can be more immune when they face those sort of crazy arguments that you vote for one party or the other because you hate your country.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And then if you don't mind, if I can say just one more thing, we also talked about like where the Latino community in particular gets news from. And then in my community, a lot of my surrounding continues to consume, like, let's say in my particular case, like Argentinian newspapers. So they primarily read Argentinian news, different sources, but from that specific country. So they're consuming American political news through the lens of another country, that I feel like, you know, obviously different political relationships that these Latin American countries have with America can definitely impact the way in their we're consuming. And I don't know if it comes from, again, I can only speak of my particular community, but I don't know if it comes from like, I don't know, distrust of American media or whatever have you. But yeah, I'm having a hard time sort of directing my community to like getting their news from a place that doesn't come from like some form of bias or some sort of like preconceived idea, you know?
We faced that challenge too. I remember there's a news outlet called, from Argentina actually, called La Derecha Diario.
Mhm.
And we saw, because the disinformation is a transnational, borderless phenomenon. We've seen sometimes the disinformation that let's say it starts in Latin America and then comes to the US, or it starts in English.
Mhm.
Someone, an outlet in South America, sees that, translates it goes viral, and then it comes to Latinos here in the United States. So it's a
Mhm.
very complex net. So not, and yeah, I mean, that those habits of consumptions, I'm not sure how to break them, but if what they're informing is misleading, and it's about the United States, and it's going viral and impacting people, that may be something that we are interested in looking at, because
Mhm.
we might find a source of misinformation or disinformation that we haven't detected yet, and then we can attack it and alert people who consume those outlets, like, hey, this is, you can choose to read whatever you want, but they claim something here and here that isn't true. And we've done it with other outlets that aren't from the US, but they are spreading disinformation about the US, and Latinos are consuming it here. So it's probably something we would love to take a look at.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah. Thank you.
Deborah, you had a question. Oh, you're on mute.
No, I've been here since 1958. I saw the roll-in of the first Cuban migration and how the Cubans forgot, how we took them in so quickly and we simulated them so readily. They're in the 60s, their children got free university educations. They got their visas and their green cards and their ability to work within months. How did they forget? Where did the breakdown come in that now Miami votes against democracy?
I can add to that we've seen that sometimes the anti-immigrant narrative, not only comes from U.S. citizens. At times are other Latinos discriminated against Latinos. There are even jokes about that, about Latinos being pro-immigrant until they get the citizenship and they change their mind. So yeah, we've seen that, and in my case as a Venezuelan, I've seen Venezuelans who've been here, who are also immigrants, discriminated against the other Venezuelans who have crossed the border. And one of the main drives behind that, from my perspective as a Venezuelan, is that we are a very classist society. And when people with money came in and with college degrees and all that, it was all great. But then if people more desperate with less resources, they want to have an opportunity in the U.S., then that's the bad immigrant because they're poor, because they don't have a college degree. So the attitude changed because we are a very classist society in Venezuela. So yeah, sometimes we've seen Latinos spreading or spreading the same narratives that we've seen starting sometimes from non-Latinos. And so, yeah, thank you, Deborah. And I see a question by Rosalie, if any research with misinformation within communities of faith. Well, from my experience at Univision in Atlanta, for example, we saw that, at times people who were in churches that were spreading anti-vaccine kind of conspiracy theories, they were less likely to go and get the COVID-19 shot. And we had to put on air an interview religious leaders who weren't spreading disinformation, so they can talk to those communities of faith and let them know it was okay. It was not a mark of the beast. You weren't going to go to hell because you got a vaccine. We haven't done a deep research about that, but we have seen that at times, specific communities of Christian Latinos tend to spread, and who I identify as more conservative, at times tend to spread more disinformation, especially when it comes to abortion, which is something that we don't have a position on abortion. Is not our place, but it's just that, and anyone can have the opinion they want, but they have pushed out false numbers and false claims. So we have seen it. We still do not have enough studies yet, and it's because in general there hasn't been Latinos and the habit consumption. So these are our new territory still. Graciela, I think she has a question.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for your presentation. I'm from Peru, and I hear exactly what you're saying. I know, But what comes to mind is, my question is probably longer than what you can respond now, but it seems like this is so valuable that maybe there could be some kind of action group coming from us that can do something about to support or to do a little bit to counter what is happening. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, you can always share what we are publishing. If you follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever you are, we do not only publish stories, fact-checking stories. We also publish explainers when there's a story out there that's creating a lot of noise. We try to say, wait, okay, let's create an explainer, a basic one, so you know what's happening and you can create your own opinion about that. And we also do a lot of news literacy, where it's videos or content in which we, either in English and Spanish, we try to help people into navigate the complex world of social media, especially when social media is designed, its algorithm is designed to make us addicted to it through rage. I mean, it's a rage machine that has that. That's why they try always to push up things. Well, sometimes, it's cat videos, which I'm very addicted to, and that makes me feel good. But at times are things that enrages you. So yeah, so we have videos and content and that we can definitely share, and you can probably share it with your communities, your loved one, your WhatsApp friends. If you're from Peru, you probably have a WhatsApp group, I believe, since we all do. So yeah, so we can definitely get some help by spreading the word.
For those
Thank
of you who are interested, we have a partnership now with Fact Check, and in fact, we carry a lot of their news coverage on our front page in Spanish. And we felt that it was important in a community that's our population here for Hispanic is 31.5%, and it's growing. It's the highest growing population at 15.6%. So it's got to keep growing. And so we felt that this was an important service to provide our community. So I'll be curious to hear of your comments, and please spread the word. It's part of one of our content initiatives this year. So all good. Any other questions? Margie had a comment. There's a lot of very good comments in here, by the way, Rafael. She had asked at the presentation where they can find the verification toolbox in English, and Rafael had answered it's on factcheckcuidado.com, trainings, media, heightened literacy. That's in the chat.
And I think, is it Haley had a question?
Here she is. Go ahead.
You're muted.
You're on mute.
You're mute.
Mute. You're on mute.
I think she's
Doesn't
working
want
it out.
to.
Oh, okay.
There you
I'm-
go.
Oh, there she is.
There you go. Okay. I am really impressed with what you said about the disinformation on the AM radios, which is what they seem to listen to. A lot of people in their cars, or the workmen getting up early and going to work, and that's what they're listening to. And how do we help them to get to the truth? Because they're so stuck in that zone when they hear it, and what they hear they believe.
Yeah.
How can you change that?
Well, one of the things that I remember when I first began in fact Chequeado and talking to our co-founders, Laura Sommer and Clara Lopez, they were very clear about something. There's people who are already engaged in the world of disinformation so much that our stories cannot bring them out of it, because they may see us as part of the conspiracy that they believe it's out there. So that's why one of the slides had something about the majority of Latinos were uncertain. And basically, that's the area where we think we can have more success. If it's someone that's already, a QAnon follower, I believe that's a little bit more complicated. If it's
That's
someone,
gone. They're
yeah,
gone.
who definitely believes there's a basement with
They're
kids
drinking Kool-Aid.
yeah, and Hillary Clinton is drinking the kids' blood so that she can look younger and stuff like that. But we've done explainers, for example, about those conspiracy theories, because there's the people who totally believe that, and we will hope that they will stop believing in disinformation, but they probably won't. But there's people who is exposed to it, but they don't know, like, oh, is it true? Maybe I don't know. I don't trust the government. I don't trust, so maybe that's true. Anything can be possible, that kind of thing. And that's where we think our role is. They're like, wait, okay, let me show you what happened. And the way we tell our stories on our articles is not believe us because we're fact checkers. No, the way we write articles is with complete transparency, with links, so people can follow the same steps that we took. Like, you don't have to believe us. The links are there. You can do it yourself, and after you do it yourself, you will get to the same conclusion. So it's all out there. So, but in the other hand, it's just we for example, when this movie came out, Sound of Freedom, a lot of QAnon, child trafficking, conspiracy theories popped up. Even they're cutting off the AC at the movies because they don't want us to see the truth. So all of this big conspiracy came up. So we did articles explaining how child trafficking works, how different is from what the movie shows. So we try to get out there to the people who may be unsure, is it true, is it not? That's where we think we can have an impact. There's a specific percentage. If they already believe that we are part human and part alligator or something, that's more complicated.
And that's in a way, that's why that billboard that they had put up in Hialeah, comparing Trump to the dictator Castro, was so, even though it brought the point to their doorstep, they didn't want to hear that. and it was an effective way of trying to show the comparison, but they had to take it down after 2 or 3 days. But they're now putting it on the side of a bus or some van driving around. But it brings, as you say, it's their fear of what they left. And so you have to bring the actual visual to them. And until then, they don't connect it. It's sad.
Deborah, I see you.
Deborah?
I work in Little Haiti, and I work strongly with the Haitian community, because I work at one of their St. Mary's school, Catholic school, and the Haitians don't have the same mentality as the Hispanic, but our Haitians here in Miami are looking just for food for their kids and housing for their families, and they're not really assimilating into the American ways. They don't have the fortitude for it. They don't have the time for it. So their politics are just anti-American.
Marciela?
Yeah, I was talking to my aunt, and my aunt is telling me all the prices are going up. Everything is going up. We don't have enough money to buy food. Therefore, their logic, the current president is responsible because, and so how to clarify that for them is really hard, because day to day, this is what's happening. And like you, Deborah, is about survival. And so I don't know what to say.
And that's the complication there at times is that this information is usually simple, right? It's like, oh, this happened, this is this person's fault, whether it's the president, or if you want to go with anti-Semitism, it's the Jews or whatever, it's still like it's very hard. It's very easy. You connect this with this and that's it. But then the process of correcting that is first it's less sexy. Like it's like, okay, so it's much more complicated. I mean, it's not like the president doesn't have a whole power here in the United States to control the prices or something. So you have to. One of the challenges that we face as fact checkers sometimes is that our stories get published a lot. I mean, like a few days later after the disinformation went viral, because we talk to experts, we do the research, we create graphics. So in that time, we take a lot of time. And at times the stories are long, so who's going to read the whole thing? So we're always trying to reinvent ourselves. Like when it comes to inflation, we try to create with stats. Oh, I'm giving another example. Crime. People believe crime is going up, but it isn't. It's been coming down nationwide. In the big cities, it's coming down. Even in the cities who have housed a lot of migrants, crime's still coming down, but people don't feel that way, right? So how can you?
Perception.
There's a feeling, and there's the perception, and there's the data. So one of our challenges is with graphics, with stats, the easiest way possible to let people know what the real numbers are, and in this case we can create a story of why. I mean, talking to economists, explaining to us why any president do not have enough power to control if prices go up and down. But I'm gonna tell you, Graciela, it is a challenge at times because sometimes the explanation itself is more boring. It's more into the weeds. And that's a challenge we face as fact checkers in general, whether in Spanish and in English. And that's something we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. How do we tell the story in a way that's not boring, that's appealing, and it kind of gets to the point and prevents, or at least makes people question their own preconceived beliefs for a moment. So, but yeah, it's very difficult, Graciela. It's a challenge.
It is. My brother is an economist.
Mm-hmm.
Said, I'm going to call my brother. He's got an explanation for this. He said to me, it's too complicated. So he talks to me about inflation. So what are you going to tell my aunt about inflation? It's like, so it's like, it's complicated, but we make it accessible.
Yeah.
If I'm going to help someone, I need to make it accessible so it makes sense to them.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing is in our countries in Latin America, usually from my perspective, presidents have a lot more power. I believe. I mean, domestic wise, like they do a lot of more things, decrees and stuff. And here's is a country which is more complicated. The president is much more control. He has less power. But if we extrapolate our Latin American experience and then put it right here in the United States, we have a view from the government that's based in what we experience there, but not based on how the U.S. government works now or how the U.S. government works in general. So yeah, I mean, in Venezuela, we experience hyperinflation, and we can definitely blame the government for it, but it's a completely different context compared to the U.S. It was a global phenomenon. The whole inflation happened all over the world. It was after COVID. Economies are mixed up between, well, the American Rescue Plan has some influence to it, but nevertheless, inflation would have still had happened. It happened after the economic depression. So it's a lot of things. So the challenge is, how do we tell the story in a way that doesn't make someone mad, in a way that someone can be open to receiving that new information. That's why we always try to come from a place of empathy, not not judging anybody, just from the place of, I understand where you're coming from. Here are the data, the facts, we put it out the easiest way possible. But yeah, it's complicated. I think Ricky.
Yes, I think people want simple answers to complex problems because their own lives are complicated and messy and they have a lot to deal with. And learning about things like climate change and the economy, it's just too much. Having a scapegoat gives you a simple answer and it relieves you of the responsibility to think.
Yeah. That was a perfectly phrased sentence, and you're super right, Ricky. That's why we try. That's why we're trying to, in the simplest way possible. Sometimes we TikTok videos that are less than a minute long. We try to push it out like the easiest way possible, whether if it's jokes or me. Sometimes I'm acting and doing weird things on TikTok that, to try to, with humor and jokes, try to get there. But yep, people want simple answer, and having a scapegoat is definitely, as a Venezuelan who witnessed the scapegoated firsthand when I saw the democracy eroding in front of my own eyes. I can see it, and I see that's a phenomenon, not only in my country, but in many countries, especially when societies are probably not sure anymore about living in a liberal democracy.
Well, you are a rock star, Rafael. We loved having you. It was a great conversation. Thanks for everybody for being so open and having the exchange. This was a great meeting. I greatly appreciate everybody's attendance, and we'll look forward to hearing from Rafael. He'll give us an update sometime before maybe the first quarter. Maybe we'll try to get him back. So
Okay.
thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.
you.
Mil gracias.
Mil
Gracias.
gracias, maravilloso la presentación.
Thank you, gracias. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you so much.
Buenas noches. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Chao.